that sounds good coming out your mouth because as esteemed as you are, it's like a stamp of approval.
I
So
love
I
it.
love it. I love it.
Well,
Thank you.
first of all, tell me, what is the Black Cyrano?
Okay, so basically, the history behind Black Cyrano is based off of one of my favorite literary characters, Cyrano de Bergerac, written by Edmond Rostand. As you have heard before, when I was young, I used to read a lot of old literature. Like I used to read books from Europe and Spain and France. And Cyrano de Bergerac was one of my favorite stories because it's a story about a smart, intelligent soldier who had a large nose. He thought he was really ugly looking, but he had an infatuation for a young lady, and he didn't know how to talk to the young lady. So what he would do is he would write poems, and he would write poems with his friend's signature to send to the lady to let her know how he felt. So basically, I liken myself to him because my poems back in the day when I used to write, I used to love to bring emotions out of my readers. So whenever they read my poems, I love to see their reactions. I love to see how the words made them feel. Like that brought me more gratification than any type of monetary reward. So that was one of the reasons why I came up with the name Cyrano. The black part is, of course, because I'm a black man, so I just had to put that in the beginning there. I was in my 20s when I came up with the name.
So tell me about the books. Let's go through the books.
Absolutely. So as you well know, I'm the author of the Black Cyrano series, which is a collection of 6 urban fiction novels. And the novels kick off with my first, which is called The Preacher's Web. And The Preacher's Web is a story about an embattled ex-football quarterback named Michael Hillman, who is turned into a pastor for his community in Queens, New York. And he's preaching love and forgiveness in a community that's ravaged by gang violence, uh, drug dealing, and prostitution. And he finds himself in the midst of controversy in several different ways. One way is when a friend comes back from his past seeking revenge. And another way is basically um, a high school boy who was convicted of murder or is found guilty of murdering his girlfriend. And then the pastor knows that he's innocent. So the pastor has to put his reputation on the line to defend this young man. And then at the same time, there's a lot of secrets that are exposed. There's a lot of things that come out of the pastor's past, and then the pastor's struggling internally himself because back in high school, he used to be a little bit of a playboy. He had a lot of pride about him, and he has to try to keep his family together. And his wife, he wants to continue loving his wife, but he's struggling with his lust. And he has a female member of the church that's pursuing him because she's going through a bad divorce with her husband. So that's why I call it The Preacher's Web, which is a follow-up to The Preacher's Web, is Adia's Ballad. And this is one of my favorite books in the series because it basically challenged me to write from a female perspective because this story is about the sister of the victim who was shot in The Preacher's Web. Her name was Lori McAfee, the victim. So the sister Andrea McAfee is basically dealing with the loss of her older sister. And basically she comforts herself by singing, and then she basically gets discovered in a talent show by a record exec who basically signs her to a contract. And she turns into an R&B star, and she travels, she tours, and she gets into a whirlwind relationship with a rapper at the time or a hip hop artist. And then she discovers the dark side of the music industry. And in this book, I basically I go into the backdrop of the hip hop industry in New York. As you know, New York, but I still like this story because it's a coming of age story. Andrea has to learn to find herself through the tragedy and also navigate as a teenager in this music industry. So Adia's Ballad, definitely one of my favorite bestsellers among young women. I actually handed this to a couple of girls when they were graduating high school, about to go to college. So definitely one of my favorite books.
It sounds like you're passionate about that book.
Oh yes, because just looking at it, our young black women don't have it easy in this country. Our young black girls, they're fighting a lot, and they're fighting with insecurity. They're fighting with sometimes trying to find their identity in this world. They're trying to find out, and then they're also fighting with discrimination, in the workplace. sexual harassment. So I want to show my queen some love, and this is something that I enjoyed writing because I love my queens. You already know that, Rhonda. So
Yeah, it's going to into a short film.
I actually do, yes. So my books definitely, after the publishing is complete, and then talking with Shanitha, we're definitely planning trying to get in the works something that's going to be done with the books in the future. Try to get it adapted into a film or maybe even Netflix series or some type of series because streaming is big now. So
Mhm.
the series, definitely I could see these books either being a movie or a short series, like a limited series. You let me jump to the next book real quick though.
Mhm.
So I got Fires of Justice, which is also one of my favorite books too. And this is a thriller novel, a thriller social justice novel. And basically, it's about a teacher who moves from New York to Georgia. And then he basically is pursued and obsessed upon by one of his white students. She's a
Mm.
16-year-old girl who happens to be his neighbor. And she becomes dangerously obsessed with him to the point where she's following him. She's, trying to be sensually infatuated with him, even though she knows that he's a married man. And then he tries to avoid her, but one day a confrontation turns physical and he gets arrested. And then he goes to jail. Is Split Decision. And Split Decision was inspired by my membership at a UFIT gym close to me where I took up boxing lessons. And then I love the art of boxing. I love the science of boxing. So this is a sports drama novel, which is centered around a Haitian middleweight contender named Silvio Dominique. And so basically, he's going for the middleweight title, but he finds himself distracted by a young woman that he knows from a long time ago. Him and
Mm.
his young woman basically get involved in an intense relationship. But what he doesn't know about this woman is that she has gang ties and she also has ties to his next opponent. So basically, yeah, the person that she's tied to, the gang leader, gives Silvio an ultimatum. I want you to throw the championship fight. And if you don't throw the fight, we're going to hunt you. So now he has to make a quick decision. Do I win for my pride or do I lose and keep my life? So that's why it's called Split Decision. That was a play on words right there. So, sports novel, this is definitely big among gym goers and guys who like to be active. My male readers definitely love Split Decision. So Decision 2, which is the follow-up to Split Decision. And Split Decision 2 basically takes place 6 years after the events in Split Decision. And then Silvio, he's a owner. He's actually co-owner of a community center that he owns with his trainer. But the community center is getting low on funds. And then he doesn't see any other alternative but to put on his gloves and then come out of retirement and get back in the ring. The
Yeah.
problem is that his trainer is going through some mental issues. And really, in this book, this is the first book where I highlight male mental health because his trainer is dealing with a lot of trauma that stems from the death of his son. And then he doesn't know if he wants to train Silvio again. So I use a lot of flashback and I go into the past of the trainer, whose name is Jim Shaw, and it goes into his past. And then basically he really contends with himself. Do I want to train Silvio again? But the problem is that the next opponent was a former MMA fighter. So
Mm.
the MMA fighter actually wants to fight Silvio because Silvio didn't give him an autograph when he was younger. And he felt that Silvio shunned him. So he's like, you know what? You think you're the big stuff now. I want to fight you now if you're coming out of retirement. So this is a really good, my latest novel. Um, it's basically a story about, now, let me take y'all back. So the Preacher's Web and Adia's Ballad. There is a key court scene in the Preacher's Web.
Okay.
And then there's a key witness that testifies against the main gang leader, Tadarius Hill. So basically, this key witness, his name is Antonio Franks. So after he testifies against the gang leader, for his safety, Antonio Franks changes his name to Edward Reed. So Edward Reed becomes a lawyer. He goes down, he gets his law degree, and he comes back up to New York. He becomes a successful lawyer. And then he finds out that Tadarius, he got some strings pulled for him and he got some connections. So he was able to get paroled and get out of jail early. And then his first order of business is to hunt Antonio Franks down. At this time, he doesn't know that he's Edward Reed yet. So because Edward Reed is still in hiding, but he knows that his life is in danger. So this book basically is about the bounty that's put on Edward Reed's head, along with David Anderson, who happens to be the man that was basically framed for murder in the Preacher's Web. So definitely, this is a book that y'all want to get to. There's definitely elements of romance. There's elements of danger, adventure, mystery. All of it is included in this book. And then, if I may,